Welcome back to my channel. My name is Thomas, the owner of Epitome of Excellence Designs and Decor. And thank y'all for coming. Thank y'all for joining. Thank y'all for watching, tuning in. I know I did not upload last week. I ran into a slight technical issue, and by the time I got everything resolved, it would have been too late for me to upload anyway. So this is going to be this week's video. I remember having a conversation not too long ago about the in-betweens of my event designing and event planning, because I wanted to show you guys that it's just more than setting up and taking down or designing rooms. There is a lot of behind the scenes stuff that nobody taught me that I had to learn as I go. So as you can tell by the thumbnail of this video, I am going to be talking about invoicing, and I'm talking about it in simpler terms, on as simple as I can get it for how I do it. So before you go any further in this video, make sure you go ahead and like and subscribe to my channel so you get notified when I upload my videos. So let's just jump right in. I remember maybe 5 years ago, I had a school reach out to me about doing 2 balloon columns, and hopefully I can find a picture. If I can, I'll put it here on the columns that I did. And it's so funny to me because the balloons were transparent. The colors that they requested were their school colors, which was like blue and yellow. And I did the columns at home. I had no way to transport them. I didn't have a vehicle that was big enough to do them. One of my good friends who I worked with at the time helped me get the balloon columns to the school. And now that I'm thinking back on it, those were cheap balloons that I think I got from Dollar Tree. And I'm glad that they didn't pop, because I had them on the back of a pickup truck with a blanket covering the bottom and covering the top. And I believe they used them for a senior night. And I remember when she reached out to me, she asked me to send her an invoice. And I was like, an invoice? And at the time I didn't have, like I said, I started doing this as a favor to family. I started doing this as a favor to people who are close friends. So I didn't have to have receipts and invoices. So this was honestly and truly one of my first booked events or gigs. So when she reached out to me, I had to go ahead and tell her, I said, I don't have a way to send you an invoice. And she ended up sending me an invoice for what she would pay me. And what was funny is I only charged $20 per column. And I think I told her it would be $40. This does not include any kind of delivery or setup or anything. And she ended up sending me $100 and invoice that. She invoiced me for a $100 receipt so that the school could have a copy of the invoice and receipt. So from that point to this one, I've always tried to find unique ways to make sure my clients have a paper trail of what we talked about and what they're paying for. Prior to me using this particular invoicing app that I'm gonna tell you guys about, I used another one. I cannot remember what it was, but it was a good one because what it allowed me to do was select the date that the invoice was required to be paid, and I think it sent reminders or something like that too. The only thing that I didn't like about it is when you put an invoice in, if you made a mistake, you couldn't delete the invoice out. So that was one of the cons of that. But this one is the invoice maker. If you have an iPhone or an ISO device, you can use this app to do your invoices. I have a quote-unquote logo that I first started out with that just has my event name, and I just want to show you guys what it looks like, what you can do in it, and just talk about why I think it's beginner and user-friendly. Soon enough, I'll be trying the Honeybook app, which will allow my clients to sign their contracts and which will allow me to do invoices, take payments and all within that app, but I have not gotten there yet. So like I tell y'all all the time, we're just figuring this thing out together. So let me show you what you can expect from this app. I like how they let you customize different pieces. I will tell you one other cons that I do not like is when I do my invoices, I can't modify the date that my client has to pay on the invoice. So I pretty much have to finesse the date that I'm sending the invoice out to my client so that it has the actual due date on the invoice that is due. And what it does is, for anybody that reaches out to me to do an event, once they pay their retainer or their deposit, I put them in my calendar, and then I put what they paid to me, how much they owe me, and then I send them an invoice. I always request their email to send the invoice. Some people do it through text message or however they choose to get the copy, but I always make sure all of my clients get a copy of my invoice. So anybody that I've ever done business with under EOE or under my LLC, they have received, they are loaded into the database. So even if you got a balloon column, or even if I provided, a backdrop, you're going to be in the database, and it's going to keep or contain your information that you initially gave me. So that's what I like about it, is if somebody books me, or if I have a client that books me again, like I got a client that's like, they booked me 5 times for events because they just always come to me. I have her name, her email, her phone number, everything already stored. So when she does book me again, I can go in, click her name, put what kind of event she's getting, and kind of customize what's included in there. Something that I recently just started doing is including what is in the package that my client is going to receive. So for example, if I'm doing a baby shower, the first thing I'm going to do is include that it's a baby shower package, and I'm going to include the base head count. My base head count for a baby shower package is 30 heads. That's typically the norm for a regular baby shower. For people who may know a lot of more guests or folks, they typically pay more for additional heads. So I always include the package base head count, and then I'll include what the price is for that base package. This is not going to include any add-ons, any changes, any additions, or anything, any travel or whatnot. This is just going to be the baseline of what that package is. Then in the description of that actual package, I'll include things that will be included with that package. Now, this is something that has really caused me to be lazy, because I know I should be giving all of my clients a contract, but I include that within the body of the invoicing package or the invoice. So I include that they're going to get the throne chair, they're going to get chair covers or seating, they're going to get utensils, they're going to get a backdrop, they're going to get draping, they're going to get centerpieces, linen. All of those things are going to be broken down in that. It's not going to be itemized, because I do know some people like to itemize their invoices. They'll put like cutlery is going to be $50, draping is going to be $250, linen napkins is going to be $150. They will itemize things like that. I don't do that, because to somebody who's not familiar with the event designing culture or the event designing world, it can be a little bit intimidating seeing all of this. And what it also does is it gives your client the false narrative that they can subtract things from your package to make it as cheap as they want to make it. And then at the end of the day, you're doing an event for pennies, and you're doing it as bland and as blank as the client wants it to fit their budget, but it doesn't do me any good. That's why I'm very particular about certain events that I take. When my client says, I already got this, I got linen, I got this, I got this, I got that, I always tell them, I'd rather not use your event items, because we already have that built into our package. And in order to provide the EO experience that you are desiring or requesting or reaching out for, we would like to use our things. Some of them say, okay, I understand. Some of them say, well, can you incorporate it? Some of them say, you know what, that's fine. And some of them decide to do it on their own. It all depends on how the client wants to go. Most of the time, people will start planning events, buying stuff, and they're seeing that they're getting in over their heads, and then they'll reach out to somebody like me. So I can understand why some people would, would already have items. So I like to include the items that will come within the package. Again, it's not itemized. I'm going to put the base rate for the package. And then the next thing I'll include is additional head count. So if I'm charging an additional $30 per person that's going to be added to the head count, that's going to be included within the additional head count. So if they're booking an event for 50 people and my baseline package is for 30 people, then I'm going to include 20 extra heads times whatever I charge for each head. After I do that, any kind of add-ons, any kind of love seats, any kind of upcharges, any kind of props or anything like that that I deem to be outside of my package. If you want stuff hanging from the ceiling and it doesn't come in the package, if it's going to require manpower, if it's going to require me to rent something to do what I need to do, then that'll be added into the package as well. That's where some of my clients decide whether or not it is a negotiable or non-negotiable. They'll say, well, no, I don't need that. And since I don't need that, Because most of what you guys see is what's included in the package when I do events. That's why a lot of them can look like the same baseline with the draping, 30-foot drape, tables, not a lot, not too much. Some of them can look the same because people are getting the baseline package and it's within budget, it's reasonable, and you get that EOE experience. And then another thing, which could be, I normally add it on the tail end of my invoicing, is travel. I try to be mindful of my area because most people book me in this area, and I did a list of how many places I've done events for that I can recommend to my clients, and I think it was about 30 that I've done within this area. I didn't even realize it was that much. And most of the time I don't necessarily have to charge for travel because I build that into my package. But if I have to go out 50 miles, 30 miles, 50 miles, 20 miles, that can add up when you're using a U-Haul. So I normally try to get what the address is going to be, or I ask my clients what's the location of your venue, so I know if there's going to be an upcharge for travel. Once I've added all those items to my invoice, I always make sure I include a note that your remaining balance is due 1 month prior to your event, and the due date for that remaining balance is going to be whatever the date is. That also is included when I respond back to my client and I tell them, hey, you should have your invoice in your email. Be mindful that your remaining balance is due on this date. If anything happens or changes, please let me know and we can discuss other options. And I also include what my client has paid me within the invoice. And if there are any discounts that I give for any repeat clients, for any clients that may have already, they said, like I had one event where somebody offset using silverware and using the charges and things for like the backdrop of the event, or use more head count, then I offset that in my invoice. Another thing that I like about this invoicing app is how you can look at what you've made quarterly, and you can look at your previous year's performance. So when I came over to the invoicing app, I was able to add what I had previously done in my other invoices for another software to this one to see how much I had made. And last year was my biggest grossing year for EOE. This year, not so much, but it's not bad. One of my goals is to be intentional with who I book, how I book, and how I present my business. And I also have to be mindful of, not making sure my family doesn't go without. So, well, not go without, but not have me. So I still am working a full-time job, and I'm raising 4 kids. I have a wife, and I'm involved in the ministry heavy. So it's a whole lot of different things like that determine whether or not I'm available for an event booking. I think for the remainder of the year, I have 5 or 6 more events from this point forward, but clients still always reach out to me. And it can very well change. I've seen it jump from 5 to 10, and then I'm like, oh God, I'm excited and overwhelmed, but trying to get it done nonetheless. So if you have not found a way, and this is, like I said, for those of you who do maybe 1 or 2 events a year, for those of you who are just now starting out, you don't want to purchase or pay for Honeybook like I didn't. If that is something that is not an investment for you right now, I encourage you to go download the Invoice app, and or it's the Invoice Maker or something like that, and you can strategize, you can keep your invoices, you can look at what you've made, you can put in your logo, you can put in your contact information, all those things, and keep them in one central location. And it is so easy, I promise you. I probably could teach my 6-year-old son how to use it and do it, and he'll be able to fill it out. But I just wanted to share that with y'all. I thought it was something that was interesting, something that is probably like a low burning flame with the event designer world, but it is it can be as low burning and it can be a bonfire if you allow it to be, or if it gets to that point. But it is something that you would have to have with every transaction, with every client. I don't care if you're making a centerpiece arrangement for somebody and your rate is $75 to $100. When I do rentals, you're gonna get an invoice and it's gonna be descriptive of what's included in that said service. So I hope this video was informative. I hope what I've shared with you does help some of you. If not, thank you so much for tuning in and watching. If you have suggestions, if you have any feedback, let me know. Y'all gonna get me. I'm going on vacation again. I low-key want to ask y'all for another week off. Is y'all gonna give it to me? In my next few videos, I'll try to include a tutorial on the centerpiece making, because I don't want to assume that everybody knows how to make the centerpieces. And then we'll do a quick get ready with me, because I got an event coming up. I'm excited to share that with you. And I may vlog again for this vacation. I'm going to the beach, and I'm going to try to do a little bit better, show y'all my family. I'm going with family this time. It's not a retreat. I'm going with my family. So I want to show and share what we do on vacation and just make it fun, y'all. This is all of this ties into the event design world. But again, thank you so much for stopping by my channel. If you're not a subscriber, go ahead and subscribe now and stop looking at me on your YouTube For You page. Subscribe now, click the bell, make sure you get notified when I upload. Until next time, y'all stay blessed.